Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
For all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
Happened in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reached the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City.
Leicester Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right there. How the devil are we? Yeah, I'm feeling a bit like that myself. A bit flat. What is it with Leicester City and stoppage time goals? Or was Eddie Howe watching that West Ham game, watching that Tottenham game, and thought, let's fall them into a false sense of security? Either way, let's be honest with you, it is just bloody annoying. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. You can catch us on Facebook, you can catch us on Twitter, and of course, if you're on YouTube, at the said Leicester Till I Die TV, please like the video, share it if you can, and also, obviously, please subscribe. And if you're listening on the podcast, we're on all the major podcast platforms and a few others as well. Thank you very much. This is where you can find us.
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favorite podcast platform or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Broadcasting live worldwide.
Indeed, so we are going to be looking back at the Newcastle game, and I have got a Newcastle fan has joined me and will be coming on live in a second. But I just want to take a moment, because it seems sometimes you forget that this is just a game of football. And those that sort of have taken part in that game of football for your pleasure, for your entertainment, move away, move on, pass along, pass away. And I think it's always sad. I really do. And of course, today, the Championship lost one of its best servants. Derby County were relegated to the third tier. And I can't tell you how upset that makes me feel. But for more news on that, let's go over to our East Midlands correspondent.
Viewers, apologize. I'm continue.
I was going to apologise to all Derby County fans, but I can't. Come on, you're Derby, we're Leicester. You're going down. Well, you've gone down. You're in the third tier. Good evening to Scott. How the devil are you, sir? Welcome along, and thank you for standing in for Brad tomorrow. And not tomorrow, Wednesday. It is much appreciated. You don't have to bring your board along with you, so don't worry. John Wayne, good evening, sir. How the devil are you as well? David, hello, Chris. You are horrible. I know, but it's such fun. It's such fun. And John says, yeah, feels sad. Never mind. Anyway, we we had a game on Sunday. Yeah, that's one I'd rather forget as well. But this gentleman doesn't. It's Brad. He's a big Newcastle fan, and we'll say good evening, Brad.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Thank you very much. Thank you for being patient there in the green room. There's nothing like kicking an opponent when they're down, is it?
No, I'm still laughing at that. Oh God, I wasn't.
Sorry.
Brilliant one. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll lend it you for Sunderland if they're struggling. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. You obviously, your details I have added into the show description on YouTube, but just tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find us on Twitter. That's where I'll be. That's where we usually posting on, to be honest. So that's under BP_NUFC. Nice and simple. So yeah, if you give us a follow on there, that'll be appreciated. And follow back and always talking about football. That
is. Let me just see if I can. Here we go. There we go. Bring your details up for you. That's where Brad is. I must admit, I do feel like an honourable Geordie because I've spoken to so many Newcastle fans and been on their shows. They've been on mine. Yeah. You know, I feel like I'm slowly morphing. I should be wearing black and white today, or maybe just black for Derby. Oh, I say, yeah, can't miss them. I've got to get every chance I've got to get it in. You went to the match.
Yep.
You said, I mean, I did a watch along with a Newcastle fan, and I've had varying sort of people. Some people say, "Oh, it was a boring game. Nothing was happening." Other people saying, "Oh, it was end to end." How did you judge the whole game?
It was. It wasn't the most exciting game by any means, but I mean, looking at the stage of the season that both teams are at, you can probably be forgiven in certain respects, I think so. But yeah, obviously still in spells. It was end to end, and there was some brilliant sort of breakaway counterattacks. That was usually the highlight points, to be honest.
Yes.
But then it was often quite a possession based, and you know yourselves were sort of executing the high press pretty well and controlling the ball for large portions of it. So, but then there was the flashes of the counterattack one way or the other were the main points really.
I mean, first of all, and forgive me, I should have said at the start. First of all, congratulations on staying up, which I think you would have done anyway. I mean, I know obviously those 3 points virtually confirm it now, but let's face it, there's 4 worse teams than you in the Premier League. And the funny thing is, we weren't saying that at the start of the season.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's quite remarkable how we've turned it around, to be honest, because, like I say, around sort of just coming up to around Christmas time, the writing was on the wall, according to many of the experts, wasn't winning it. So, to what we've managed to obviously the January window was the most important thing, and luckily we managed to get it right with the players that we got. Again, apart from arguably, people are saying the jury's out for Chris Wood, I think. But apart from that,
I was about to ask that. Yes.
Apart from that, everything else has been spot on. Unfortunate to lose Trippier, obviously, and we haven't had Callum Wilson. But yeah, just the way Eddie deserves, so much credit. The way he's, despite what you can say about him, but as a manager and as for the players and his coaching ability, just the way he's been able to transform the team, just unbelievable. So.
I mean, I'm a great Eddie Howe advocate. I mean, I live just outside Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And when I came down to Bournemouth, which was 15 years ago or so, I can remember the Bournemouth players stood outside the pavilion with buckets collecting money to try and keep the club going. And Eddie Howe had come in, and I think the club was something like minus 17 points at that time, at the bottom of the 4th tier. And he came in and, he took them from that to Premier League. And to be unfair, for a few years, Premier League stability, and the guy to do that, I mean, in a lot of ways, that should have been the story of the 15-16 season that Bournemouth were in the Premier League. If we hadn't gone on and won the Premier League that season, I think that might well have been. So I think you've got an absolutely brilliant manager, Ian. I was afraid when you first signed him, and again, I'm getting mixed views here from Newcastle fans, is that obviously the rumours were, you went for Emery, and he turned you down. I mean, do you see Eddie Howe as almost like a stopgap manager in the fact that he's kept, his his brief obviously was to keep you up this season at all costs. He's done that. Probably for the next season or the turn. I do like your owners because they're not this right. We're just going to buy it and we're going to be Premier League champions next year. You know, they are taking it step by step. They realise it's something you've got to build a base on and then build on the next base, etc. But do you see Eddie Howe as the long term, or do you see him being there for a couple of seasons and then when you're ready to challenge for the Premier League, you go out and get a big name? And no disrespect to obviously Eddie, but get one of those big name managers in.
Yeah, I think my probably take on it at the moment is I think as long as he's doing the job and improving the team in the sort of a 2-year window, I think there's no problem with him keeping his job.
Yeah.
Unless we're really underperforming, which in that case we will go out and get that name. But I think the way I think the owners said in sort of had a bit of an interview in the I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they've said how impressed they were, and they didn't realise how he would take charge of the team and transform the squad like he has. So I think in that respect, he's sort of punching above his weight and even going above what they thought he could achieve this season. Which
no, definitely. Mike Green says here maybe. Sorry, you were breaking up. I thought you'd stopped. I think you've broken up. No, carry on.
I was saying, I think even though we are safe now, well, not mathematically, but pretty much so. I think if we can pick up even a few more wins, it just sets him. He boosts his profile even more, and the reputation he's got, and the backing he'll get from the owners, and the way they're sort of impressed of what he's done and the strategic planning that they've got in place. I think they're fully behind him with that, and the more wins he picks up and the better he gets us playing, he's going to have that position to say, well, keep doing what you're doing. You know, we'll obviously gradually improve the squad, and as long as he's going to improve himself as a manager, and as long as we're making that progression in line with what's expected realistically, there's no reason why he couldn't keep the job. And I think that's what the majority of the fans want to see, because like we talk about then his history and what he's done. That story with Bournemouth, how many other managers you're talking like in the world class bracket, none of them have gone through that experience in their career. So he's a different type of manager, and somebody like a down to earth, great man manager with the players. So I think that's someone the fans have really taken to, of course, and I think most of us would like to see him stay long term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mike, good evening, Mike. How the devil are you, sir? Also, good evening to Terry Fuller. Welcome along. And to David S. as well. I'm going to come to David S. point in a minute. But first of all, as Mike has said there, there's no reason he can't grow with, Newcastle. And all managers have to start somewhere, and this going straight from playing to a Premier League club, we've seen it doesn't always work. No. We were joking about Derby before, but Wayne Rooney stopped there. He'll build his career there, and where Lampard's kind of sort of jumped ahead of him, and he's struggling. Let's be honest with you. So I think Eddie Howe can go on and do a good job. And like you say, if it's not broken, why fix it? David asks you a point here, Brad. Some of the pundits I listened to seem to suggest that Newcastle sat back a lot in the second half and didn't do much to win. Other than St. Maxim solo runs, were you playing for the draw?
No, I agree. I think in that second half, we weren't particularly great. The winner coming from the win and goal, the build up, just certainly from target to win the ball back.
Yeah.
And he started the attack and then knocked it to Willock, and he made a good flick on to get past the I think it was it James Justin possibly.
Yeah.
So that just one flash of brilliance from those two, and then Bruno obviously to set up the goal. But apart from that, we were sitting back quite a lot and let Leicester have a lot certainly a lot of possession, and didn't press too much as what we'd expected to go for it. So I think would we probably go for settling for a point possibly, but I think that probably was the case ultimately, unless that one chance, that was it. It just happens, doesn't it? It could have gone either way.
It happens, It always used to happen to us in stoppage time, But I mean, I would say I mean, I just wish Tillemans, sort of, who lost the ball originally, just take the Newcastle player out. Take one for the team. I know he's not that sort of player, but if he'd taken you out, he'd have probably got a booking, possibly a sending off. But like I say, take one for the team. But then again, 1 point, we would have got. So we're not actually sort of doom and gloom. But talking of St. Maxim, it was one I was watching when I did the watch, obviously when I was doing the watch along, but I was particularly interested in because he was the player under Steve Bruce that got all the plaudits. He was your Tillemans, if you like. And very often when I was watching it, he broke really, really well. Like I said, countered against us, but he had nobody to pass to. There was no Newcastle player up there with him, and he was kind of like he lost the ball. And the guy that I was watching it with was sort of saying that's typical Newcastle.
Yeah, it's that's the thing sometimes, and I think the second half really highlighted it because he didn't have much joy, and when he did manage to, often via a long ball is usually how he gets in behind the back four, gets the ball and runs on. But yeah, in that situation, it's you're seeing maybe one or two players just sprinting to get in a position, but you guys were very well organised at the back, so there was nothing for him. There's nothing for him to do apart from his trademarks. Usually in that situation, when there's no options, you'll just try and take it level and take it out across and try and get something. But if there's 2 or 3 defenders well positioned, they'll just drift across, and it's quite easy to defend. But yeah, so it's that support that's lacking to sort of unlock his ability of what he's doing. But that was sort of a result of us probably sitting a little bit too deep, so we couldn't really be effective enough with Maxi, to be honest.
Scott says there, Chris doesn't want his players taking tactical fight. I know he doesn't, but I still wish he had done. Sometimes. So no, just take one for the team, guys. Take one for the team. Terry, good evening. I say, how the devil are you? Wouldn't mind having the Brazilian lad who scored. Bruno, is it? Yeah. Bruno here at Leicester. Not that he would come now. It sums it up there. You've gone from a team that was probably supplying players for other clubs to players that, why are they going to want to go anywhere else? The future at Newcastle, if you look at it, it's only going one way. You say Leicester are doing the same, and we've come a long way, but we've all got rich owners. Some have got deeper pockets than others, but you're not going to have to sell if you don't want to anymore. And somebody comes in for a player and you want to keep him, you can just up his wages.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very lucky position to be in, I suppose, because over the years, it's certainly Mike Ash's tenure. Any good players that we had performing well. In the back of your mind, you're thinking, how long is it going to be before they end up? Mike Ashley gets a bid of 20-30 million pounds, say like for Perez, etc.
Perez, you had to mention that P word, didn't you?
And then, like I say, not the many examples where they've just gone, and you feel like now, if we have that players, the hardest thing is probably going to be getting some of the players that aren't sort of out of favour, getting them out of the club, and then the ones we bring in, we've got to make sure they're sort of rotated well and there's good enough competition, and people, it's sort of keeping the morale up on getting players with regular playing time, really. And then as long as everyone's happy, like you say, there's no reason why they're going to want to go anywhere.
No,
unless it's for top, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, etc. But if that happens, then that's probably going to happen. There's nothing we can do about that.
No, there's always a bigger club, unfortunately, isn't there? Yeah. Scott asks you here, Brad, do you think that Eddie has found Joe Linton's best position, as I've been impressed with him in particular?
I think he's surprised everybody, really, how he's brought what he was originally brought in to do a couple of years ago, and now he's in this position, sort of a pressing central midfield player. But I think how Eddie said that, he's found that spot for him in the team, which is great. We've seen the improvement that he's had and the effect he's had on the team. Still not. There's obviously the goal scoring elements lacking slightly, which is clear to see, and it's been the case since he signed. But Eddie's also said that longer term, he knows that he can play higher up the pitch. So it's just a case of if and when that's going to happen. But he also mentioned that he's got no reason to change it which obviously which obviously is a very, very true statement. So whether I don't know how it's going to play out, he might just end up staying there in the long term. But I know that certainly Eddie believes, finishing wise, he has got that ability to play higher up the pitch and add some goals to his game. So it's just interesting to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah. We're going to look at the teams. There's some more questions in the chat, and we will come on to those. But I mean, these were the starting teams. I mean, how pleased were you? I mean, you've got one sign in there, Chris Wood. I mean, Terry's just said here, was it me or did Wood have virtually no effect on the game? I mean, we had Chris Wood at Leicester, and I was pleased when we signed him. I think he just scored 6 in a game for Millwall or something like that. He was on fire. And unfortunately, when he came to Leicester, we already had Dave Nugent, we had Jamie Vardy, and then we went and bought Leo Ulloa from Brighton. So he was up against some stiff competition. And as Ulloa found as well, you know, Jamie Vardy started to come through, and the rest, as they say, is history. But that has got to be. And I say I love the guy. I haven't got anything against the guy. And, you know, I think he scored our first Premier League goal back when we came back up. But it was a weird signing for me because he wasn't going to be the 20 goal a season striker that I thought you probably needed to stay up.
No, I think it sort of surprised everybody because it came about relatively quickly because with there being a release clause, it got triggered.
Yeah.
And the news started flying around. It was virtually a done deal by then. So I think it happened the day after. But yeah, at that time, you were thinking, God, you would think we really needed to do something better than that to give ourselves any chance of staying up.
Yes.
But it somehow worked out, regardless. You know, we're in a fortunate position now. But you would be thinking, but I think we're under no illusions that we were thinking probably could he have got a few more? He might still do by the end of the season. Like, don't get me wrong. But if you say like, were you thinking maybe 5 or 6 goals would be realistic for him? Sort of the record that he's had in the Premier League over his time with Burnley.
Yeah.
But it's that if. But it probably he has had an effect in terms of off the ball, but then again, I don't think the system we've played is particularly best suited for him. I think he's better with someone alongside him, so he's probably struggled as a result of that as well. But he's not. Some games he's not had a great number of things to work off and.
I mean, do you see him as sort of I mean, like when we play in Nacho, he's more of when he gets the ball, he's holding on to it for other players to come up. Do you see Wood as that sort of player? And if so, he didn't really do that on Sunday.
No, yeah, I mean that's something. Obviously, being a target man, so that's something you'd expect, and he can bring to his game and have that effect if he's not scoring goals. But often he's probably been the case where he's not done that as well as he could.
Yeah,
fortunately scored that great penalty against Wolves under probably putting himself under a lot of pressure, and everyone was probably just as nervous as he was watching it. Yeah. So, but no, he's sort of that player where he's not going to score you a load of goals, but if we can work it round in a system, when Callum Wilson comes back, obviously he's going to be the higher end potentially in summer. I would think we're going to go for a striker anyway. So in terms of where he's going to fit in, hopefully just a backup target man, and you'll have the support by then to have more of an effect for us, hopefully.
Yes, yeah. Mike says there, Wood was a business signing, hurt your relegation rivals. I don't think it hurt, but he wasn't a prolific scorer for Burnley this season. I think it hurt them psychologically, the fact that they'd lost their main striker to Newcastle. But you say he was never a 20 goal a season striker for Burnley. But that team there, were you happy with that as a starting lineup? I mean, Shelvey's your captain, and I can seem to remember he wasn't the fans' favourite under Steve Bruce.
No, yeah, say lineup pretty. I think that's as good as we were going to go for from what we had available. So yeah, I'm happy with that. And yeah, Shelvey's been a surprising one because under Bruce he was looking really out of favour and a bit down in the dumps. And especially I remember Bruce's final game in charge when we just got taken over and he got a silly sending off. I think it was he came on and then he got sent off in the second half. And then you thought head down, walking off. You're thinking he's not going to last too much longer at the club. And then when Eddie came in, he was one of the players that came up and said, he's going to be really important for this team. And since then, he's really put the time. He's obviously put the effort in training, fitness wise. He looked a different player, and he's put some great performances in, scored a couple of goals, and then the passes he can play. Anyone's seen that on his day, they're brilliant. So
I think he always had great potential, which is why I think we all sort of surprised. But maybe that's because now A, he's got a coach that believes in him, and B, he's just got a decent coach now. Well, every disrespect to Steve Bruce, I don't know how he keeps getting jobs, to be honest with you. But I mean, looking at Leicester's lineup, I mean, let's get the elephant in the room out the way. You've mentioned him already. Yeah. There we go, Mr. Perez, as Scott says there, and I'll say it to you, I say it to every Newcastle fan I see. I've still got the receipt. He's faulty goods. Will you please take him back?
I don't think we'll have him back now. But yeah, I was going to say that I'm not sure how the Leicester fans sort of not really got a gauge of what the Leicester fans think of him really.
To be honest with you, he was a surprise signing. I'm not going to lie to you. There was no rumours beforehand. A bit like Chris Wood, I suppose. You know, it was Brendan's first signing. He had that £30 million get out clause, and we triggered it. And we thought, okay, we looked at his last season stats, and I think that last season with you was the best season he'd had. And maybe we should have looked further back. And we all saw him as a striker when he came in. And he's not really an out and out striker, and I think he's never shown it. I think there's a good player in there. It's just trying to get it out of him. He was played on the right wing, and so we kind of said, well, that's not his. He's not a right winger, and so let's judge him when he's in his favoured position. But I think his favourite position is very much like a number 10, but nobody plays with a number 10 anymore. And if we do want somebody in that sort of role, we've got James Maddison above him. And he'll pop up now and again. He'll score 3 against Southampton. He always likes a goal against Southampton. And then he came on midweek against PSV, and we were 1-0 down, and he turned the game. He set up the goal for the equaliser, and we had to eat humble pie. But as everyone was saying, 20 minutes doesn't make up for the 3.5 seasons that he's not been producing for us. And it occasionally, like with the back, but I mean, that back heel for Lookman and that goal, I mean, it was sublime, And if that was Ronaldo did that, we'd all be screaming from the rooftops, saying, wow, what a wonderful player. And he had a decent game against you, but it's just not regular enough.
Yeah, that's it. You sort of looking for that consistency. I know that was the case when he was at Newcastle. He's the last season we had with him. He'd played in a 3 up front. Rafa usually had where alongside Rondon, and he probably punched above his weight in terms of goals. He picked up quite a few goals in that season. Yeah. So he was always that sort of one, like for us, up and down, probably quite similar to what he is now, and he's not. He certainly showed. He showed in a lot of games in the Premier League, and the goals he scored. He is a quality player on his day, but like you say, sometimes it's the most frustrating when you know that and you don't see it as often.
No, I think like you say, he reminds me a little bit, and probably Leicester fans are going to look at me with a little bit of a sort of weird look now, but a bit like Damari Gray when we had him was the fact that you'd bring, and I'll always respect and appreciate Damari Gray for that goal he scored against Cardiff after our owner passed away. I mean, that was one of those memorable, goal in the first game afterwards. I'll always remember him for that. But apart from that, he was a lazy sod. But he came to us with great expectations. I've got a friend who's a Birmingham fan. He didn't want to let him go. He was annoyed because we'd bought him. And we thought, he's going to be a great player for the future. But he went through 3 managers and none of them fancied him, and that kind of says something about him if it's 3 managers. But he'd come on and he'd play really well and have a cameo 20 minutes or so, and you think brilliant, and then he'd start the next game and be bloody awful again. And Perez kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah, it's frustrating as well, and Damari's getting up to Everton, but yeah, sometimes if that's the case with certainly a few managers, he sort of leaves it to think, well, it must be the play. If more than you get the sort of consensus from a few managers that someone's not quite, whether it's in training or some of the attitude shown on and off the pitch. Sometimes it doesn't often change manager, and eventually it gets picked up, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. Now, everybody cover your ears. Del Boy's in. Good evening, Del Boy. How the devil are you? Did that swear bucket get overflowing on your show the other night? I know you weren't too happy with the defeat, but my God, I thought you were being sponsored by FC UK, to be honest with you. It was a barrage, but I did feel your pain, mate. I did feel your pain. I mean, going through the goals, like I said, that first goal, it could. I think the first goal could have gone either way. It was very much sort of up and down at that point, one end to the other. And what I liked about Newcastle was after that goal, you didn't. So I think the old Newcastle would have probably dropped the head. So well, here we go again, and then you go on and get 2 or 3, but they didn't. And that's all credit to yourselves, all credit to Eddie Howe. You didn't let it affect you, and you came back fighting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a stat from, I think it was in 4 or 5 years, we'd only came back from behind once or twice. I think it could. I don't think it. I think it was twice. So, but now, I think we've done it. I don't know how many times we've done it this season, but we've done it at least. We've done it at Southampton. We've done, certainly a few occasions. We came from behind, and that's all credit to the new attitude I think that's in the team. Because previously we would be on the end of 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. I mean that still happened this season a few times. Even at your place, that was the case. But it's now, I think, the more the attitude we're in now, especially the home form, because we could usually be our own worst enemy in front of the fans.
Yes,
and everyone used to get a bit toxic, and the players, it would filter through to the players, and they would get a bit. The heads would drop, and they would struggle. But now it's like when we go down, we still have that belief that we can win the game. We've showed the mental strength that they've got now.
Yeah. Good evening to Doug, and I'm going to just sort of mention that, Doug, what you said straight after this. Yeah, please do subscribe if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't done so yet. But yeah, as Doug, I'm just going to find the comment now. I hadn't heard this, and I haven't seen it. Just having a quick look then on the BBC. But thoughts go out to Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodriguez, who have just announced they've lost their baby boy. Yeah, I know he's a Manchester United player, but I don't care. In that situation, I think our thoughts go out to any player. You forget club loyalty. RIB Cristiano, and I can't really say much else on that one, really, to be honest with you. And as Mike said, yeah, I agree with them wanting privacy at this time. I say our thoughts go out to them. Your equaliser, it's annoying from our point of view. I'm not going to lie. It was like we managed to sort of hold on, because both myself and Alec, who was doing the watch along with me, we know when we've just scored a goal that we are very susceptible to to the team equalising, and he said so would Newcastle, but we held on for a bit, but it came, and I'm going to be honest with you, you deserved it.
Yeah, I think from what we just mentioned then about the spirit and fighting back, we showed a good. We had a good spell after that, pressing well, and we sort of managed to turn the tide a little bit. So But to get the rub of the green, bit of a mistake from Casper, to be honest with you, which, you know, like you say, you'll be very disappointed about to see him spill it. But we looked at it and I thought he just sort of kicked it out of his hands, and then it went to the screen, and it showed that it was a mistake from the goalkeeper. So yeah, very very, very fortunate, and just a quick to be on his mark and to like sort of spot it and an opportunity and be in there and sort of a bit of a poacher. So yeah, great to see him. Great to see him get on the score sheet.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see they're still there. I mean, I didn't realise straight away that the goal hadn't been given. And I didn't particularly see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it was showed it had gone to VAR. And I think there was two. There was, I think, one of your players was possibly jumping over a Marty, but, you know, to my mind, a Marty's a big bugger. Why weren't you jumping? And secondly, well, so you saw from there, I suppose from a distance, it could have kicked it out the hands. But I always look at these things and think, okay, if this was at the other end, what would I be thinking? You know, if it's a penalty, would I be claiming for that penalty? Blah, blah, blah. And had that been at the other end, I would certainly have been screaming for the goal. And you know, well done to Bruno for following it in and not giving up. Yeah,
exactly. It's just that instinct which he's got alongside all the other positive trait. Well, you know, the class ability he's got in his game. It's just he's impressing us all, really, and it's just great to capitalise on a mistake. That's what you've got to do in the Premier League to win games. A lot of the time, especially when it's closely matched.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I mean, let's just have a look. There are a lot of questions being placed in the chat, and I will come on to that at the end. But just looking at the match here, wrong one added. There we go. I mean, again, another Brad, actually, my co-host on the post-match, he hates stats. He says they don't show the game. The only stat that matters is the one, how many balls in the back of the net, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that 69%, it's virtually 70-30 on possession there. But that doesn't mean anything. But when you look at the game, I mean, you had twice as many shots as we did, you know, and for me, that's worrying. You know, you had 3 big chances, we didn't have any. Expected goals, you were over double what we were. Looking at that as for stats, and I mean, even in the sort of the I don't know if it shows there. Does it show the values at the side? It doesn't, does it? No, it doesn't on this one. Maybe that's because I'm looking at a different screen. But you've got to be pleased with that sort of performance.
Yeah, it's a lot of the. I think it's saying in terms of sometimes it can't be a true reflection. I mean, the possession was that one was sort of from seeing the game, not seeing the stats sort of live. That was a sort of rough estimate of what you would have said possession wise, because they say you did have a lot of the ball. But the chances we did get, we seemed to get shots away and create something, which I think was what Leicester was sort of lacking in a way, because they got in some good positions and the crosses came in, but said you just didn't quite get the rub of the green. Possibly a couple of chances we cleared away well, just hoofed it, you know, got a clearance to where we needed to. Dubravka came and claimed a few, so he just didn't materialise into the great positions you got into, and the amount of the ball and passes that you were making, it just didn't materialise into chances, which sometimes happens in games. Are just if the chances just don't drop. But say it was just one of them, and we managed, fortunately, the snippets we were getting of the ball, and we seemed to break away and try, and we essentially had to make something happen with the chances we got. So I think that sort of made us a bit more wasn't clinical, but we just sort of got a few shots away. I mean, a lot of them were poor ones. Don't get us wrong, and there were no chance in hell they were going in. But it was just sort of getting the chance.
It can hit somebody on the way in, and you know we all see deflected goals. I mean, to me, that the thing that interests me is the accurate passes. I mean, we made 490 accurate passes. What it doesn't show is how many of those actually were forward passes and how many were side, because we kind of reminds me very much of sort of Liverpool when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. They were very patient and they would pass the ball around a lot and then have one decisive pass. But we don't have that decisive pass in us. And the other thing that gets me is the goal did come in sort of the 95th minute. And apparently Mendy got booked after that. I'm not sure what for. But one thing, when we had Martin O'Neill as our manager, one thing that he always installed in was that the game isn't just 90 minutes. You know, the game is on until the referee blows his whistle, and you don't switch off. You give 100% of the time. That breakaway at the end, our two central defenders, I think, were probably sort of in the centre circle, or certainly that way up. And it was annoying. I mean, if we'd lost, I would have said fair enough. You know, I think for me the draw was the fair result. But if you'd have won, or you did win, or we'd have won and nicked it, I think we would have both said, yeah, okay, fair enough. But it was just the manner in which it did. It was so deflating.
Yeah, you felt that second half particularly felt a bit flat, and some of the sideway controlling the ball. There's a lot of sideway passes, nothing too. We were fairly well organised. The back four done what they needed to do.
Yeah,
there was nothing sort of that space. We didn't allow that because we were sitting back more to our detriment in terms of the chances that we had really. But we nullified the sort of the threat of your full back sort of getting behind. I think Kraft and Target were pretty well disciplined in terms of not sort of allowing too many opportunities. And given the wide players too much joy, especially when Barnes and Maddison came on, I thought they could have had a bit more of an impact on the game. But we managed it well. But in terms of the way we were playing, that allowed your back four to play that higher line. So we were just waiting for that one chance to sort of say, well, can we break away? Are we just going to get? And it's going to be like it's just a case of we're just going to have to get one chance on the break, and we're going to take it. And if we do, we'll win, and if we don't, we'll come away with the point, or maybe we'll lose the game. Like you say, it just depends how the rub of the green, which way it goes.
It's difficult because Brendan's been accused very much of being too defensive a lot of the season. You know, where it's 1-1 and he'll put on defensive players and try and hold on, but then if he does that, he gets blamed. Or if he does what he was doing, on Sunday, which is like, let's try and go for the winner, and we get caught out, then he gets blamed. So it is a lose-lose situation for a manager. But from your point of view, what do you think of the Leicester side? I mean, you saw. I'm probably presuming if you didn't go to the KP earlier in the season, you probably saw the match.
Yeah.
And then you've seen this one. I mean, I jokingly said I would have preferred to play the Newcastle that still had Steve Bruce and that we met at the KP. And you might have said, you preferred to play the Leicester that didn't have a full strength team a few months ago. And I think if that was the case, it could have been a goal fest. But what were your thoughts on the Leicester team and performance? Here's where you lose all your friends, by the way.
No, I think. I think you say you've got obviously a good quality side. You've been very unfortunate with injuries this season, as we know. But the players that Dewsbury Hall bringing through, it's great to see that sort of talent. Maddison obviously on his day, brilliant. Harvey Barnes, etc. Then Daka through, looking through the team, there's some great players in there, and the ability to sort of the midfield quality. And the way they can retain the ball and possession, keep the possession well, that's always going to put you in good stead. It's maybe not what people want to see sometimes, and sometimes it can be counteracted by the. It can be relatively easy the more patient you are for the opposition to become more organised. But you're always going to have that foothold in the game, and it only takes that one opportunity to create and score. So. Yeah, it's that sort of as well. The fullbacks as well. You managed Justin and Thomas Scott usually a couple of breakaways they got with the ball and managed to get themselves up the field as much as they could. Yeah. So yeah, it's just one of them games where unfortunately it just happens, doesn't it? And you can be on the losing side, but without doing too much wrong.
Yes.
But yeah, it just
we made the changes, and I knew we would make the changes because we'd made 7 changes, and it was virtually this team other than Perez, that played against Palace, and we beat them 2-1, and we were comfortable, and we played very well. So I expected him to go back to that team. And okay, I get the fact that he gave Perez a start because of what he did, in the European quarterfinal. So I get that, but I couldn't understand a couple of his substitutions. In Barnes played midweek, and he took him off because he wasn't having a good game and put Lookman on. And Lookman wasn't having a bad game, but he swapped him for Barnes, and Barnes came on and had another iffy game. I didn't even notice him after he came on. Maddison, yeah, I get that one. He's always proven a threat, but that's Maddison. But we'll go through some questions quickly now at the end. Mike, and this is a very good question, Mike. Brad, would you like to see one marquee signing each year, upwards of 60, 70 million, etc., with 20 million signings around? Around that. So basically, what would you prefer to buy sort of more a lot of squad players, or would you like one big? I suppose like Man United do one big marquee signing every year.
I think certainly right away. I think they've got a good strategy in terms of sort of forgetting about the price tag, in a sense. They've got a list of players they want. They're looking at character. The character and how they're going to fit into the profile of the team, and so I think if in terms of that, if someone does fit all them profiles and they want to join the club, and they're going to cost the realistic market value is looking at 60, 70 million, and instead of having a player that's worth 30 and they're asking for 60 and 70 and trying to rip you off, that'd be a different story. But yeah, if terms of I would love to see them. Those like 60 million, genuine 60 million pound signings, such as Darwin. I think Nunez from Benfica. That's one I would love to see. But then again, we need a few more players around the pitch, and obviously we can't go around getting every player for 60 million. So I think
you probably could, in fairness.
In terms of apart from that, I think if we can pick up some. Certainly, even free transfers. If we can pick up the right players, even if it's like 15, 20 million pound, there's players out there who can really improve us and drive us on. So I think, initially, if we can get that one marquee sign, I think, and then the rest we can just supplement the squad with who we need.
I think you've got to be careful. I've seen. I lived in Burnley for 20 years. I had all my kids in Burnley, and they had Paul Gascoigne. They had Ian Wright. They got these players in for a season at the end. I can remember watching Gascoigne. I can remember thinking, like, what a brilliant player he is, but the rest of the team weren't at his level. So everything he was trying to pull off, because Burnley were a championship team at the time, great sales, great, for publicity. But on the pitch, he was trying to do things, and the others just weren't good enough to sort of keep up for him. So you don't want to sort of spend a fortune and then find that the rest of the players aren't. And I said this to Alec on the watch along. Eddie Howe and the board are going to have to be very, very careful with the signings, because they go and knock on somebody's door and they're going to say, "Oh, yeah, are you interested in this player? I see, I've heard he's available for 30 million. Who are you, Newcastle? Oh, no, it's 50 million.
Yeah.
And because of, the reputation you've got now, you got to be careful you don't overspend on some of these players.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be it's going to be a real test for them. And are they going to get every single call right? Definitely not. So they're going to make some mistakes along the way. But I think the positive thing is everyone's got their head screwed on. They know the situation relatively well. They can learn from the mistakes of some other clubs, such as Everton, that have made poor decisions in the past. So we can do as. I think as apart from the unforeseen circumstances, we'll go into everything with the best foot forward and not try and get ripped off, sort of thing. But if the players, I think what we're gonna have to do is be a bit strong in terms of having to walk away from deals. If people don't want to join us, or the other selling club aren't going to play ball, we just walk away, and we just find we have a good list of targets. and we try and work it out, and hopefully get the deals done. But I
I know
certainly
you're
don't.
worried about people coming to you at this stage, not because of that you're Newcastle United, but because they know that they can probably wring a lot of money out of you in wages, etc. And those again aren't the sort of players you want, are they?
No, exactly, and I think what a lot of the fans are behind is we only want to see players joining the club who genuinely do want to play for the team.
Yes,
We don't people who are just going to come for money in that, and the fans don't want to see that, and the club don't want, and the ownership don't want that either. So I think what I think some people can forget as well. People, as the certain the media can spout off big names, etc. Looking at this, look at that, but we forget that Eddie. We've seen what he can do with players. We can take players with potential, younger players, and we can improve them, and we can take the team that we've got, bring in some. I say not unknown players, of course, because the way football is in European football now, the names and the potentials of the youngsters are relatively well known. So, but anyone we can bring in, we know we can mold them as long as they fit the profile that we're after.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why Eddie can't improve players like he has done for so many in the squad already.
Yeah, Terry, I think you were watching Gladiator at the weekend. You said Maximus there. So I think you were watching the wrong channel, mate. Scott says here, and I guess the answer to this is yes, because there isn't anybody that you haven't been linked with, and that's the trouble. Andrea Batelli from Torino, do you know anything about that? Those links? Is he a player you would want?
I think John Sinclair mentioned that, or I think on one of his shows, but. Yeah, if I remember rightly, I think he's either got a year left on his contract or it's possibly expiring. So he'll certainly be on the market. We'll look at it, but I'm not sure. I think I can't see us going for that one really.
Yes, yeah. Let's just see if there's any more questions just come in. I think. Just going on. I think problem with Perez is that we don't really know what he is in the team to do. Last two games he's been great as a utility, tricky player, capable of a trick or two, but not high quality. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him go this window, to be honest with you. But we will see. So Mike's just said here. Balotelli's contract is expiring this summer. Mike, can you message me on Twitter? Because I've got an idea for a show I'd like to run past you, if you could. And Scott's just saying the same. He's a free agent in the summer, and there's a good turn of pace and good goals return, although in Italy. Well, if you can score goals in Italy against their defenders, you're not doing bad. You're not doing bad.
No, you don't know. You can easily. Anybody you've seen players coming with big reputations and underperformed, players who we've never heard of coming and score loads of goals. So you just
I always say, and it's stating the obvious a little bit, but I think there's three types of signings when you sign a player. Now, I was born and bred in Leicester, and I then left Leicester with my job, and I went Blackpool, Blackburn, Burnley. I worked in Bolton and Bury, and then I came down to Poole in Dorset. And I tell you what, each time you move, you've got to get used to the area that you're in, the people that you're in, because they are different. And that's just moving from one part of the country to another. When you're moving from abroad to come into this country, it's a whole new culture and way of life, and you've probably got no friends you haven't got any friends with you. You still hope to make friends within the squad, and you've no family around you unless you bring those with you. So it can be hard to sort of first of all settle in. Then you've got the thought of what was I going to say? The style of play of the Premier League. It's different to the way the Italian play theirs, the way that the Spanish play there. So they've got to get used to that as well. So it's a bit like throwing the baby into the swimming pool, really. Will it sink? Will it swim? And
exactly.
We've got three players that basically typify that. Fofana, we threw him in because he was supposed to be going into the development squad, but because of our injuries last season, we threw him in, and he hit the ground running. He was brilliant. You've then got Samari, who we bought. big reputation he came with, Champions League qualifier, and yet he's kind of been hit and miss. He's not, he's taken, I think he's taken that bit longer to get into the English game. Then you've got Daka, who is he's half, you know what I mean? He's halfway there. Yeah. We know he's got goals in him. He's got 4 against Moscow in one game, but he struggles in the Premier League. So you have to sometimes, when we buy these players and we expect them to do things straight away, and it doesn't always happen, does it?
Yeah. No, yeah. We've all some fine example. Dubravka, the goalkeeper. I think where we signed him from on loan, I can't remember Sparta Prague, possibly. He wasn't even their first choice goalkeeper. Right. And he joins us in the Premier League. His debut against Manchester United, he keeps a clean sheet, making saves all over the place. And what he's done, just unbelievable. You just don't know. And I think sometimes that elements. I know that stuff like that doesn't. It's all about the newspapers and the media and all the rumors. And people always an elevated reputation, particularly English players. But you just don't know. But coming in, it's always an unknown, and people can take things like a duck to water. But yeah, it's always the hidden gems are sometimes some of the greatest signings that we see. So you've got. Yeah.
And dare I mention? I mean, you mentioned the P word earlier. Dare I mention the S word? Slimani. We had, and you wouldn't even. I mean, not being awful. You sold us Perez and sold us, and yet you didn't even take Slimani permanently, or did Slimani go to you first? We bought Perez after. No, I think Slimani went to you after.
Oh no, we had. I think we had him in the January. No, Perez was still with us that season.
Was it? I mean, was that why you sold Perez to us? As we'll get our own back for sending us Slimani.
Yeah. You can have him back as well.
Yes. Oh, we got rid of him now, thankfully. Look, Brad, it's been great having you on. Thank you for coming on and being so honest and reviewing. I know it is always easier to be magnanimous when we're talking about a win, but well done. Like I say, it's staying up. Really pleased for you. We're going to see you next season because, like I say, you're not going to go down. And good luck with the future. You've got the money now, but then who hasn't? It's just we've all got rich owners. It's just the size of the pocket. So hopefully that you'll go and give Manchester City and Liverpool and the like a kick up the backsides once you get spending and get the team together. So all the best for the future, mate. Thanks for coming on, and we will see you next season.
No problem. Thank you very much, Chris. Good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. And Brad's Twitter is there on the screen, and it's also in the description below. Take care, mate. Stay safe. Great and stuff. As they see you next season.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Thanks to Brad there for joining us. I do feel like saying honorary Georgie. Honorary Geordie. I've been on so many Newcastle shows. My throat is still hurting from the PSV game. And can I just say, I want to give a shout out to Broski. Now, I don't know whether you remember Broski or not, but he was a PSV fan actually living in Holland. And he came on to the post-match show with us and was very generous, very magnanimous. And it was a pleasure to have him on. And he was really excited because his team, which was Eindhoven, were playing Ajax in their version of the FA Cup. And they won, basically. So well done, Broski. Well done, Eindhoven. And well done to the manager. You may have been knocked out of York, but you went and won the FA, or their version of the FA Cup. The only thing I just want to leave with is, with football, we saw sort of the bad news earlier for Ronaldo, and we forget football is a game. We're all fans. I mean, you look at what happened to our chairman. We had flags from virtually countries. Nottingham Forest flags were on the gates, for God's sake. Our biggest rivals, and we should respect that. We should respect each other's traditions, and looking at how Man City reacted at Wembley at the weekend to Liverpool, the referee had to stop the minute silence for the 96. And I just think, wobble your heads, You know, it was, whatever your thoughts are on it, it was a tragedy. 96 people went to a football match and lost their lives. And you should never, ever go to a football match and not come back. It's a football match, for God's sake. And I thought we were slowly... getting away from this sort of image of English football. But, you know, if you can't keep your gob shut for a minute out of due respect, then don't turn up at all. I was very, very disappointed with Manchester City fans at that point. And, you know, we've been through the tragedy, and clubs were big enough to show us support and show us respect. You know, not only Cardiff, because that was the next game, Burnley, who were playing. And I just think, I don't want to labour the point, but I just think it was disgusting. Yeah, I totally agree there, Mike, 100%. You know, and I know it was only a proportion of the Man City fans, and you know, I'm not relating the whole club with that, but I just think it was awful, and I just needed to get that off my chest. So sorry for going on about that, but I was disgusted, and sometimes, you know, you need a club to have maybe been through a tragedy to understand what it's like. But I respect every other club because of the way we were treated when our chairman was in the helicopter crash, and I will respect all of the clubs' minute silence and players that have passed away, etc. And I just think those that aren't really fans. They're not fans of the game at all. Guys, I'm going to go before I say something I shouldn't. I will be back at 9 o'clock with Lou when we'll be doing the football review show. We'll be looking at all the news and results from last week. That same channel, 9 o'clock. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you've been listening on the podcast, it's been great to have you on. Thanks to Scott for modding and Mike as well. And thanks to everybody else that was in the chat. And I will see you at 9. Good night now.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye, and see you next time.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Rattle!